7 months since the last video. Time flies by and it's not been fun. This is one of those projects where it's like you fix one thing and 10 new things appear, and no matter how you try to create the architecture correct, there's a fucking edge case somewhere. Sorry for the language. Last time the UI looked like this, and this UI had a lot of issues. Elements would like flicker around because of how the layout was calculated, and it had issues in it that made it really hard to take the next step to add new features on it. The new UI, it doesn't have that issue, so quite stable. Resizing, has stuff like that, sliders, looks reasonable. Settings, stuff like, doing settings like these. But that wasn't the point. So I've been focusing a lot on the input because I want the application to support multi-touch from the let-go. It's not like every other Windows application thinks of touch as they just slap it on at the end, and it's so buggy. I'm gonna show you examples in a moment on the laptop where I have touch. And I've also focused on input propagation. So a lot of UI systems, when they do events, you have the position, right? And when you press the button, you get on press, and then you have on release and such. But what I've found frustrating in many UI systems is that, let's say you press on a slider, you move the mouse outside and release. In pretty much all other UI system that's not capture based, you will not get the release event on the element. So for example, in Unreal Engine, you create your button, or not even a button. Let's say you need another element that has custom press and release support. It could be your own viewport, right? If you don't keep track of the mouse leaving the element, and if it's being released through the input system, you will get stuck in your press state. It's really, really horrible. But what I've done here is, if you start pressing on something, the mouse belongs to that element and nothing else will react to it. And when you release, even if you're out here, the element will get the release event. And the only edge case is you check if you're over the element, if you do want the click to happen, which is pretty much just buttons and menus. Almost every other interaction you do, you need the release event to happen. So that's why. What else is good to show? I don't know. Trying to see if there's anything worth showing here. I don't really think there is. I'll get to the light table on the laptop, so that should be it on the workstation. So let's do that. I'm having a hard time getting the camera to focus, but let's start here. So I've started to add the animation features. So that's what we're seeing here. And we can see that there are two animation layers, and there are individual layers for each keyframe on the right. So these layers here are separate from these layers over here on the left. Imagine that if you want to make a keyframe, but you want to make a rough version first, and then you do a layer with your line art, maybe add color and stuff, you don't need to do all of these animation layers over here. So, matter of taste, I guess. But let's do the input thing. I've loaded two example files here. So we have this bitmap over here with touch, right? And this viewport on the left is showing it. So it doesn't matter if I'm over here. But let's go back to this one. It's at the point where I can more or less dual wield the input, do stuff like this, or this is actually important when we come to the stylus. So let's do a new document like this. Uh, Usually in other application, if I start to touch at the same time, the input breaks. You cannot interact with the canvas as you're drawing. It's impossible. And I'll show it. So here is Krita, a very common application. Start drawing, right? Oh, look, I can't do anything. But if I start doing touch and I start using the mouse, it starts doing some weird, funky stuff. Can't do anything. And if I want to like interact with the UI over here and try to touch, you see I can't do it. I'm not allowed to. But if I go over here and let's say I open the color picker over here, I can even change the color as I'm drawing, right? Because I can do this because my touch is one device and my pen is one device. And each device in my input system has its own capture. Each finger is captured to its own viewport or the UI. So that's why I can keep track of these two separately, because the 4 fingers are actually 2 sets of fingers for each viewport. And the same with the UI. If I'm using touch on the UI, I'm not allowed to use my other device on the UI. Only one is allowed at the same time. So let's see, I haven't done this, but I should be able to interact with them separately, right? So that's the primary reason why I've spent so much time on input propagation, because when you're working with an application, like as an artist, you don't think, or as a developer even, you don't think about these things until you're sitting with the application. It's like, why can't I do this? Why can't I interact with it and, you know, draw and maybe like that, whoops, and, you know, do basic stuff like that without stuff breaking. I don't know what else to really show here. Yeah, I mean, a bouncing ball. Oh yeah, the light table. And here the numbers are not the keyframes, it's the number of frames. So 1, 2, 3 might change this setting, but you know. This is one of those things that doesn't look so fancy when you look at it, but the way you need to do compositing to make it performant and not like make your fans launch your PC into space to render everything was a bit of a pain in the ass to do. But anyway, I digress. It's probably obvious that I'm not at the highest morale on working on this anymore. Like 7 months for one update, and it has barely progressed from a user standpoint. Yes, the visual UI changed. Finally got the multi-touch to work. I don't know what else to say really. Could maybe be the last update, because I don't know what the value really is anymore on working on this. Let's say I spend another half year and I get this to a point where basic brushes that actually works. The pen I have right now is shit. Get the animation features working. So what are people gonna use this for? I need to get it to the point where I can do full scene compositing. Like you animate your characters, you have your moving backgrounds, you can do exports, you probably can import audio, playback, and so on, right? And from a feature set standpoint, that doesn't sound much, but I don't even have an undo system at the moment. I don't even know how I'm going to do the actions, so it's not obnoxious to get undo to work properly without bugs. And because I'm working with bitmap data, as soon as you have very high resolution, you need to use a tiled canvas and keep track of the tiles being dirtied. And even if you do that, the undo um, stack is going to grow really, really fast. So do I need to dump it to disk? Because, for example, on my laptop, I only have 8 gigs of RAM. That's going to fill up in no time. And the VRAM, there's no room. Like my to-do list is so long, and it's just in the back end, the stuff that you don't really see, stuff that needs to be fixed. Like, for example, just now, you fix one bug and 10 new appears. Like the latest one I noticed was when you press and hold a button and release, it's only a click if the mouse is still on the same element. Well, I managed to introduce a bug again, so it's detecting the release when I'm outside. And that's brand new. It hasn't been there for several months because I touched something else. Anyway, I'm trying to be positive, but yeah. Until next time, maybe. Bye bye.